I know how to disappear into the background noise of a room. It's a skill I learned young when your mother's family runs loud and your father's gone. You learn that silence is survival. But that Saturday afternoon, watching my Uncle Marcus toss my grandmother's jewelry box into the trash can during my daughter's 5th birthday party, I didn't fade away. I stood there, frozen, holding a paper plate with half-eaten cake, and made a decision that would change everything. Garage sale junk, Marcus announced to the 30 guests crowding my small living room. He held up the carved wooden box like it was evidence in a trial. This is what Mom left you? Not the lake house, not the savings bonds. Just this? He laughed, and I watched several cousins join in. Emma, sweetie, your mom's holding on to trash. My daughter looked up at me, confused. She was 5. She didn't understand why Uncle Marcus was being mean at her birthday party. I didn't have an answer that wouldn't make me cry in front of everyone. Maya. Marcus turned to me, still holding the box. Do yourself a favor. Let it go. Mom's been gone 6 months. You don't need to cling to every piece of hell cow. He shook it. Something rattled inside. He didn't even pause. Costume jewelry she owned. I'm doing you a favor. The trash can sat by the kitchen door. He walked over, ceremonial, and dropped the box in. It landed with a hollow thunk on top of wrapping paper and plastic forks. I felt Jessica's hand on my shoulder. My best friend knew me well enough to know I was calculating something. But I didn't move. Not yet. I just watched Marcus return to the living room, clap his hands together like he'd accomplished something, and reach for another slice of pizza. What is the cruelest thing a family member has ever done to you at a celebration? The party continued. Emma opened more presents. Kids ran through the house screaming. Marcus held court by the food table, telling stories about helping raise Maya after her dad died, positioning himself as some kind of savior. I played the good host, smiled, cleaned up, made sure everyone had what they needed. And I waited. At 7 p.m., the last guest left. Jessica stayed to help clean. Marcus was the second to last person out the door, and he paused on the porch. You're not mad, right? He asked it, like he actually cared. I'm just trying to help you move forward. Mom would want that. I know, I said. My voice was steady, calm. That's the thing about silence, people mistake it for agreement. Drive safe. The moment his truck pulled out of the driveway, I went to the trash can. The box was right on top, dusty but intact. I pulled it out and set it on the kitchen counter. Jessica raised an eyebrow. You're keeping it? Grandma gave this to me specifically. I ran my fingers over the carved wood, a pattern of roses and vines she'd probably stared at for 60 years. 3 days before she died, she made me promise to open it after she was gone. She said, "Don't let anyone tell you what it's worth." Did you open it? I hadn't. Grief is strange. For 6 months, I'd kept the box on my dresser, unopened, like opening it would make her death real. But Marcus throwing it away, calling it trash at my daughter's birthday party, that made it real. That made it intentional. I lifted the lid. Inside were layers of tissue paper, yellowed with age. Underneath, a tangle of jewelry that did look, at first glance, like costume pieces. Fake pearls, a brooch shaped like a bird, clip-on earrings with cloudy stones. I lifted them out carefully, piece by piece. That's it? Jessica asked gently. Then I felt it. The bottom of the box sat slightly higher than the depth of the wood suggested. I pressed the corners. One side clicked. A false bottom. The hidden compartment was shallow, but what was inside made my hands shake. 3 stock certificates, brittle and brown at the edges, issued in my grandmother's maiden name, Dorothy Chen. The dates read 1965, 1967, and 1968. The companies, IBM, Xerox, and something called Fairchild Semiconductor, that I didn't recognize. Each certificate showed 500 shares. Attached with a rusted paperclip was a small passbook from Cascade Credit Union. Maya. Jessica was reading over my shoulder. Those stocks, if they're real, they're real. My grandmother had been a secretary at a tech company in the 60s. She'd told me stories about how her boss encouraged all the secretaries to buy shares. She said most of the women sold theirs after a few years to pay for washing machines or vacations. But she held on. The passbook showed an account number and one entry, $850, deposited in 1969. No other transactions. Nothing, for 55 years. I felt something collapse in my chest, then rebuild itself harder. Marcus had called this trash. He'd thrown away something my grandmother had protected for decades, something she'd hidden specifically so people like him wouldn't find it, and he'd done it in front of my daughter, at her birthday party, while eating my food. I need to go to the credit union Monday morning, I said quietly. Jessica, who's been practicing law for 3 years, looked at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Maya, if those stocks have been collecting dividends all this time, I know. And if Marcus finds out, he won't. I closed the box. The birthday cake sat half-eaten on the counter. Emma's laughter echoed from the living room where she was playing with a new toy. Outside, The Oregon rain had started, pattering against the windows of the small house I rented because I couldn't afford to buy. The small house I lived in because my teaching salary barely covered rent and childcare. The small house Marcus had once offered to help me buy if I made some better choices. I wasn't the little girl hiding in the background anymore. I was a mother, and I'd just been handed a weapon. Monday morning, I took a personal day from school. Emma was at kindergarten. Jessica met me at Cascade Credit Union at 9 a.m. sharp. The building was small, brick, tucked between a hardware store and a coffee shop in downtown. Inside smelled like old carpet and paper. I approached the counter with the passbook in a plastic sleeve, the stock certificates in another. The teller was young, maybe 22, with perfect eyeliner and a name tag that read Brittany. She smiled at me. "How can I help you?" "I found this passbook in my grandmother's belongings. She passed away 6 months ago. I'm trying to determine if the account is still active." Brittany took the passbook, scanned it, and typed something into her computer. Her smile faded. She typed again, looked at me, looked back at the screen. She stood up. "Ma'am, can you wait here for just a moment?" She disappeared into a back office. Jessica squeezed my hand. 2 minutes later, Brittany returned with an older woman in a burgundy blazer. The nameplate on her desk read Sharon Kim, branch manager. Sharon looked at me with an expression I couldn't decipher. "Miss Martinez?" "Yes. Can you come to my office, please?" We followed her into a small room with filing cabinets and a desk covered in paperwork. Sharon closed the door, sat down, and folded her hands. "Miss Martinez, before we proceed, I need to verify your identity." She slid a form across the desk. "Driver's license, social security card if you have it, and any documentation showing your relationship to Dorothy Chen." I provided everything. Grandmother's death certificate, which listed me as next of kin. My birth certificate, showing my mother's maiden name as Chen. Sharon examined each document like she was handling evidence. "Okay," she said finally. "I need to be very clear with you about something. 3 months ago, a man came into this branch claiming to be the executor of Dorothy Chen's estate. He had documents, power of attorney, a will stating that he was authorized to access all her accounts and assets." My stomach dropped. "Marcus, I can't confirm names," Sharon said carefully, "but I can tell you that our fraud prevention team flagged the documents. Something didn't look right. We told him we needed to verify everything with the primary account holder's next of kin, but we didn't have current contact information for you. Your grandmother had an old address on file. I moved after she died," I said. "Smaller place, cheaper rent." The man became agitated when we said we couldn't release the funds. He threatened to sue. He claimed you were unstable and financially irresponsible, and that's why the account needed to be managed by him. Sharon looked at me steadily. "We told him to have his lawyer contact us. He never did." "What about the account?" My voice came out hoarse. "Is it still active?" Sharon turned her computer screen toward me. The number on the screen didn't make sense at first. My brain couldn't process it. $850. Deposited in 1969. With compound interest accruing for 55 years, at varying rates. The current balance, $47,392.18. "But that's just the credit union account," Sharon said quietly. "Those stock certificates you have you had them evaluated?" I shook my head. "Miss Martinez," Sharon pulled out a calculator, "I can't give you exact numbers without proper appraisal. But I can tell you that IBM stock from 1,965, with dividends reinvested over nearly 60 years, she wrote numbers down. Showed me splits, growth rates, rough estimates. You're looking at approximately $700,000 to $800,000 per certificate, minimum. And that's conservative." The room tilted. Jessica grabbed my arm. "The Xerox stock is similar. The Fairchild Semiconductor certificate is harder to estimate because the company was acquired and split several times. But based on the acquisitions and stock conversions," Sharon looked at me. "If I had to give you a rough total, based on all 3 certificates and the credit union account, you're looking at somewhere between $2.8 and $3.2 million. I couldn't breathe. "Ma'am," Sharon said, and her voice was gentle now, "you need to speak with our security team, and probably a lawyer, because the man who tried to access this account, he knew it existed, which means he may try again." That night, I sat in my living room with Jessica, Emma asleep in her room, and tried to make sense of everything. He knew. I kept coming back to that. Marcus knew about the account. "How?" "Your grandmother probably told family she had some savings set aside," Jessica said. "Marcus heard savings and assumed it was his to manage after she died. He tried to steal it 3 months ago, while I was still grieving. And when the bank said no, he just what? Waited? Not exactly." Jessica had that look she got when she was thinking like a lawyer. "Maya, think about it. He shows up at Emma's birthday party, finds the jewelry box, and throws it away. Why? Because he's cruel? Because he's looking for documentation." Jessica leaned forward. "He couldn't get the credit union account without you. But if he could find the stock certificates, he could try to claim those separately. Power of attorney over estate assets, especially if there's confusion about what's in the estate versus what was given as gifts before death. The box wasn't listed in Grandma's will, I realized. She gave it to me before she died. She made me promise to open it after. Exactly. Marcus doesn't know what's in it. He just knows it might be important, so he tries to get rid of it, make you think it's worthless. Maybe you throw it away for real, and he comes back later to help you clean out storage and just happens to find it in the trash. The manipulation was breathtaking, and I'd almost fallen for it. If he'd been subtle, if he hadn't done it at Emma's party in front of everyone, I might have thrown the box away myself out of embarrassment. So what do we do? I asked. Jessica smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. We let him hang himself. Over the next 2 weeks, Jessica and I worked with the credit union's security team, a financial advisor, and a trust attorney. The stock certificates were authenticated, transferred to my name, and placed in accounts I controlled. The credit union account was updated with my current information. Everything was locked down legally. Then I made a phone call. Marcus? It's Maya. Hey. He sounded genuinely happy to hear from me. How's my favorite niece? I was his only niece. I'm okay. Listen, I wanted to apologize for being weird after Emma's party. You were right about the jewelry box. I was holding on to grief. Hey, no worries. We all process differently. The thing is, I'm thinking about selling Grandma's lake house. This was true. The house was in a trust that passed to me. Marcus had been furious when he found out. It needs so much work, and I can't afford to maintain it. I know you wanted it, so I thought maybe we could work something out. Silence on the other end. Then, I'd love to help you out, Maya. What are you thinking? Could you meet me there this Saturday? I'll walk you through it, and maybe you can make an offer. I just want it to stay in the family. Absolutely. What time? Saturday morning was clear and cold. Typical Oregon spring. The lake house sat on 2 acres, weathered cedar and a dock that needed replacing, surrounded by pine trees. I arrived first, parked in the gravel driveway. Jessica pulled in 5 minutes later, but she stayed in her car, hidden by trees. Marcus showed up right on time, driving his truck, alone. Maya, he hugged me. He smelled like cologne and coffee. Good to see you. You too. Come on. I'll show you around. We walked through the house. I pointed out problems. The roof leak, the outdated electrical, the kitchen that hadn't been updated since 1987. Marcus nodded along, making sympathetic noises. So what are you thinking? Price-wise, he asked. I don't know. It's overwhelming. I led him to the living room, where I'd set up some of Grandma's belongings on the coffee table. Photo albums, old books, a few pieces of jewelry I'd pulled from the box. I found all this stuff going through her things. I thought maybe you'd want some of it. Memories, you know? Marcus barely glanced at the table. Sure. But about the house. Actually, there's something I wanted to ask you about. I picked up a folder from the couch. When I went to the credit union to close out Grandma's accounts, they said someone had tried to access them a few months ago. With power of attorney documents. I watched his face. For just a second, something flickered. Then it smoothed out. Oh, that was probably me, he said easily. I was trying to help settle the estate. There was some confusion about what needed to be probated. My lawyer drew up some documents, but it turned out we didn't need them. Right. I opened the folder. The thing is, Marcus, the credit union flagged those documents as fraudulent. The room temperature dropped 10 degrees. That's ridiculous, Marcus said. There must be some mistake. The power of attorney was dated 3 weeks after Grandma died. It claimed she'd signed it while she was alive, but it was notarized by someone who doesn't exist. Maya, I don't know what you're talking about. And then you showed up at Emma's birthday party and threw away the jewelry box. The one Grandma specifically left for me. The one that had stock certificates hidden in it. Marcus's expression changed. The friendly uncle mask slipped, and underneath was something cold. You found those? I did. How much? He stepped closer. How much are they worth? Why does that matter? Because half of Mom's estate should have gone to me. I'm her son. I helped take care of her. You swooped in at the end and convinced her to leave everything to you. She left me a jewelry box, Marcus. You got the savings bonds. Aunt Linda got the furniture. The lake house was in a trust created 20 years ago. Nobody's whooped anywhere. Those stocks are part of the estate. His voice was rising. She didn't list them in her will because she probably forgot about them. That means they should be divided equally. She didn't forget. I kept my voice level. She hid them in a secret compartment and told me specifically to open the box after she died. She knew exactly what she was doing. You manipulative little, he stopped himself. Took a breath. When he spoke again, his voice was smooth, controlled. Okay. I see what's happening here. You found some money, and now you're getting greedy. That's fine. That's human nature. But here's the thing, Maya. I have a lawyer, and I will fight this. I will drag you through probate court until you've spent every penny on legal fees. Or, he pulled an envelope from his jacket. We can settle this now. Sign the house over to me, split the stock proceeds 50-50, and we walk away. I'll even let you keep the credit union account. As a gift. He placed the envelope on the table. Pre-printed deed transfer documents. He'd come prepared. You were never here to buy the house, I said quietly. You were here to steal it. I'm here to claim what's mine. That's when Jessica walked in from the kitchen, where she'd been standing the whole time. Behind her were 2 police officers. Marcus turned pale. Marcus Chen, one officer said. We have a warrant for your arrest for attempted fraud, forgery, and attempted theft by deception. This is insane, Marcus sputtered. Maya, tell them, Mr. Chen, the officer continued. 3 months ago, you attempted to use fraudulent power of attorney documents to access accounts belonging to Dorothy Chen. You were informed that the documents were being investigated. You then showed up at Miss Martinez's home and attempted to dispose of assets belonging to the estate. And today, you've arrived with pre-prepared deed transfer documents for property you don't own, attempting to coerce the rightful owner into signing under false pretenses regarding estate law. Jessica stepped forward. I'm Miss Martinez's attorney. We've been working with the county district attorney's office for the past 2 weeks. They're very interested in your activities, Mr. Chen, especially the notary you paid to backdate those POA documents. Marcus looked at me, really looked at me, and I saw the moment he understood that I'd played him, that I'd set this whole thing up, that the quiet niece who'd never fought back, who'd let him control family narratives for years, had just put him in handcuffs. He couldn't find words. Grandma told me something once, I said. She said people like you mistake silence for stupidity. You thought because I didn't argue with you, because I didn't fight for attention at family gatherings, that I was easy to manipulate. But silence isn't weakness, Marcus. Sometimes it's strategy. The officers let him out. He was still sputtering, threatening lawyers, claiming misunderstanding. Through the window, I watched them put him in the patrol car. Jessica stood beside me. How do you feel? Like I can breathe. The criminal case took 4 months. Marcus pled guilty to fraud and attempted theft in exchange for 18 months in county jail and 5 years probation. He was also ordered to pay restitution to the credit union for their investigation costs. The civil case resolved faster. His lawyer took one look at the evidence and advised him to drop all claims to the estate. I used some of the money to renovate the lake house, not to sell it, but to keep it, to bring Emma there on weekends, to teach her how to fish off the same dock where my grandmother taught me, to show her the carved jewelry box and tell her the story of how Grandma was a secretary who bought stock in companies most people had never heard of, and how she held on through market crashes and recessions because she believed in the long game. I also set up a trust for Emma's education, donated to an elder abuse prevention nonprofit, bought a house in town with a yard big enough for a dog, and I went back to teaching, because I love it. Because money doesn't change who you are at your core, but some things did change. At the next family gathering Thanksgiving, at Aunt Linda's house, I walked in with Emma, and the room went quiet. Everyone knew the story by now. Marcus was in jail. I had money. The quiet niece wasn't so quiet anymore. Aunt Linda hugged me tight. I'm sorry we didn't see what he was doing. It's okay. It's not, though. She pulled back, held my shoulders. Your grandmother would be proud of you. Emma ran off to play with cousins. I stood in the living room, holding a glass of wine, and felt the weight of everyone's eyes on me. Some curious, some resentful, some embarrassed that they'd sided with Marcus, believed his version of events. Marcus's son, my cousin Jason, 19 years old, approached me nervously. Hey Maya, can I talk to you for a second? We stepped onto the porch. The November air was crisp, smelling like wood smoke and rain. I just wanted to say I'm sorry, Jason said. About my dad. About what he did to you. I didn't know he was. I knew he had money problems, but I didn't know he'd... Jason, you're not responsible for your father's choices. I know, but he looked miserable. Everyone's acting like I'm going to turn out like him, like it's genetic or something. I thought about that. About cycles. About how cruelty and kindness both get passed down if we're not careful. You texted me after Emma's party, I said. You apologized for your dad's behavior. You were the only person who did that. It was messed up what he did. Yeah, it was. I looked at this kid, this young man trying to figure out who to be. You get to choose who you become, Jason. Every day. You're not your father. Don't let anyone tell you that you are. His eyes got watery. He nodded, didn't trust himself to speak, and went back inside. I stood on the porch a while longer, watching the sun set through the trees. I thought about my grandmother, working as a secretary in the 1960s, buying stock when women were barely allowed to have their own bank accounts. I thought about her hiding those certificates in a jewelry box, creating a secret nest egg, waiting for the right time to pass it on. I thought about how she'd known, somehow, that I'd need it, that I'd protect it, that I'd understand. Some people mistake a mother's patience for weakness. They see silence and assume surrender. They see kindness and assume stupidity. But Grandma taught me something else. She taught me that real power doesn't announce itself. It waits, it watches, It plans. And when the moment comes, it doesn't just win, it transforms. I wasn't the little girl hiding at family gatherings anymore. I wasn't the grieving granddaughter too sad to open a jewelry box. I was a mother, a teacher, a woman who'd learned that the most valuable things often look ordinary to people who don't know how to look. Emma came running out onto the porch, breathless and laughing. "Mom, come play cards with us." I took her hand. Small, warm, trusting, and I thought about the lake house waiting for us. The trust fund growing. The carved wooden box sitting on my dresser. Empty now, but still beautiful. "Coming, baby." Inside, the family gathering continued. Loud voices. Laughter. The smell of turkey and pie. I walked in holding my daughter's hand, and I didn't fade into the background. I didn't need to anymore, because silence isn't just survival. Sometimes, it's victory.